Your seat more. Yeah, go ask you a hug if you want it back.
No, I sit right here. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. It's all good. I didn't mean
Good evening, everyone. We will call the meeting for December 17, 2012 to order. First order of business is the roll call. Charlene.
Sasso. Nordstrom. Scott. Clayton. Peterson. Doyle. Lewis. Roberts. Wright. Lorente. We have quorum.
The next order of business is the invocation. We'll recognize Pastor Ron McLaughlin from Hillsview Church. Everyone, please rise.
Good evening. The mayor's asked that we take a moment of silence for those in Newtown, Connecticut tonight. Would you join me in that before we pray? Pray with me. Father God, you are a good God. And Lord, we as a people here in Rapid City can't imagine what's going on in Newtown, Connecticut, and we can't wrap our brains around that or understand that in any way. But God, you're a good God, and you're a faithful God, and you're a God that provides and protects, and you're a God of mercy and grace. And we thank you for that, Father, and we praise you for that. And we know that you're a God that brings a compassionate response, and that you'll bring a care and a comfort for those people and those families, as you do in any of these tragedies. And events. And so, God, we thank you for that. I thank you, Father, for this night and this time together. I thank you for the men and women before me, Father, that lead and serve in this community, in this city, for their willingness to do so, God. And I pray for them tonight. I pray that you'd give them wisdom and direction and discernment and unity of purpose, God. And I pray this in the name of Jesus. Amen.
We have some very special guests tonight to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. And Jerry, if you would introduce them.
With pleasure, with the troopers from Troop 74561, Valley View School, Brownies and Juniors, please come forward to lead us in the pledge. I might add, I had the distinct honor of working with them through our VFW Citizens in the Schools program, and they impressed me. They are working on their citizens' badges, and I think when they're done here, you're going to be impressed, and we could all learn something from them. Their peace, their honesty, and their patriotism. Show is yours, girls. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ladies. Great job. We'll now move into the adoption of the agenda. Are there any additions or changes to the agenda? Council members, please hit your lights if there are. Do not have any changes. Do we have a motion to adopt the agenda? Motion by Doyle, second by Lewis. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We're now into awards and recognitions, and if the Ward 2 Alderman, Richie and Steve could join me down front along with Jack Nodell. Culver's is one of my favorite places to eat, so I'll give you a certificate now so I don't steal it. In partnership with the Veterans Coordination Commission, we are pleased to present the December 2012 Veteran of the Month recognition to Mr. Jack Nodell.
Mr. Jack Nodell served in the United States Marine Corps from July 1970 to November of 1972. He served as ground infantry with Charlie Company, 1st Battalion, 9th Marines, and served off the coast of Vietnam. He served at Camp Pendleton before being assigned to Okinawa. From there, he served on float. One of Jack's favorite activities was practicing coastal invasions, where he got to ride a landing craft, jump in the water with a pack full of gear, and help capture a beach he didn't even want. Is that true, sir? Jack spent a great deal of time in the Philippines, training in the surrounding hills in preparation for duty in Vietnam. But he is thankful that he was not deployed into the theater. During his tenure with the Marine Corps, Jack was active with the Marine Corps boxing team and served as team captain. For the last 16 years, Jack has worked for the Cornerstone Rescue Mission in Rapid City, helping our most needy residents. Currently, Jack is the manager of the Cornerstone's Veterans Drop-In Center, which is located at the mission in Custer and operates in cooperation with the VA. This center is open to any veteran in need of assistance or simply looking for a place to relax. At the Drop-In Center, Jack and his friends, through email, I might have skipped something. Nope, I did not. Through email or to simply relax and play games. In addition, the center has a master social worker from the VA a vocational rehabilitation specialist to find meaningful employment, a craft room, a TV lounge, and of course, a coffee pot. On a normal day, Jack and his staff serve approximately 75 veterans, and that number continues to grow.
Before I go into the letter here, I just want to say Jack is one of the people that I visited on frequent occasions when I was with the city as an employee. And I want to applaud Jack and the staff that he works with for being one of the cleanest places in the city that I had to go and inspect. So thank you, Jack, for taking care of a good place. Thanks to Jack's tireless efforts, veterans are getting the help they need in a safe and friendly environment. Veterans are getting jobs, getting homes, going back to school, and re-engaging with fellow veterans. Jack is a tremendous resource to veterans of the Black Hills community. Jack has 2 children, Adrian and Teresa, who also reside in Rapid City. Having served his country with pride, honor, and integrity, Jack Nodell is a true patriot of our country, the United States Marine Corps, and his community. He is most deserving veteran of the month. Thank you for your service, Jack.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And if Captain Doug Thrash would come up, and Abby, you're welcome to come up too, and our Assistant Chief, Carl Jagaris. We are sure going to miss you. Seems surreal that we're doing this. 20 years of dedicated service, and Carl has some great stories, and he's going to share those with us now.
Well, I just have one story that I'd like to share, and that is that Captain Thrash came to us as a second career after he had a full career in the private sector. And when Tom Hennies hired Captain Thrash, knowing that he was not of the same age of all the 20-something-year-olds that were hired at the same time as Captain Thrash, he asked him for 10 good years. And Captain Thrash has exceeded that in 2 ways. First off, by giving more than 20, and the years were all great. He was a committed public servant, and I thank you for your service. And Abby, I thank you also for your support so that he could serve our community well.
I remember talking to Chief Hennies 10 years after I had 10 years, and I said, well, Chief, I made it. I got the 10 years. He forgot all about that. He said, I don't remember that. Of course, if you knew him, you'd understand that more. It's been an honor to work for and with the citizens of this community, and I've often reflected that if I couldn't live in Rapid City, where would I live? And I can't think of any place. And I think it's because good enough isn't good enough for our community, and I respect what the council has done, and the other city agencies, and the mayor, and my coworkers, and the community demands excellence, and I've been part of that, and it's been great. Dan, you and I served on the board downtown years ago, and here we are reflecting on that. It's just been an awesome journey that I got to be part of, and my wife tolerated my weird hours, holidays, weekends, nights. it's been a good ride.
And
So
your low pay when you started.
that's changed. So anyway, I thank this community for this honor. It's been awesome.
Thank you for your service. Thank you, everyone. The next order of business is executive session. Joel Landine.
Thank you, Mayor. The purpose of the executive session is to discuss and consult with legal counsel on pending or proposed litigation.
Do we have a motion? Motion by Robert, second by Wright. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We're in executive session. Do we have a motion to come out of executive session?
So moved.
Motion by Doyle, second by Clayton. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And we'll go to Amanda Scott.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to direct staff to enter into a counteroffer as discussed in executive session, and upon failure, come back to us, but I believe we will have success.
We have a motion and a second by Doyle. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We are now into general public comment, a time for members of the public to discuss or express concerns to the council on any issue not on the agenda. Action will not be taken at the meeting on any issue not on the agenda, except by placement by unanimous vote of the council members present. We'll first go to Bonnie Redden. Good evening, Bonnie.
Good evening, Sam. My name is Bonnie Redden, and I reside here in Rapid City in Ward 4. I don't know if this is the place for this, but I have been watching in horror the happenings of the last couple of weeks. I moved to Rapid City 40 years ago, and it was in the midst of the worst line of mayors and councils that I have ever been subjected to. At long last, we have an external audit about to take place, and a mayor who has had 3 public fits in the last week about the aforementioned audit. KOTA Radio, Public Works, and today at the Compass meeting. Now, Compass does not investigate personal behavior and was not connected to these complaints focused on a sitting alderman. Makes me wonder just what he's been involved in during the last 9-year council and now year and a half as mayor. People who do not fear audits unless they have something to hide. I was in public business for 40 years. I went through audits that made the balance of this budget for this tiny little town look like pocket change. I never fought an audit, and I never failed one. And I would urge you on this council to get behind this audit and get it done. Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie. We'll now go to Jim Olson.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. I'm James Olson. I'm the chairman of the Rapid City Public Library Board of Trustees. Other trustees present tonight are Mary Ann Rohr, Monty Lose, and Ron Sasso. The library board meets monthly at the Rapid City Public Library, and as reported at the Legal Finance Committee last week, the board voted to install internet filters on the library computers. Patrons can request that those filters be removed for their individual use. The board's action will be reviewed with a report by management in 3 months. The report will include a review of all incident reports to be done in collaboration with legal and law enforcement, and staff will track patron complaints about restricted information access. Library policies and procedures will continue to be applied. Since December of 2010, it's interesting to note that patrons used over 256,000 hours of computer time, and there were 907,655 people who entered the library during that period. And the overwhelming majority of the public abide by the policies of the library. The staff will continue to be trained in assisting patrons with access to information, patron complaints, and public safety. And if there are people in the audience tonight who want to speak about any of the policies at the Rapid City Public Library, we ask that they direct their comments to the Library Board of Trustees, as they are responsible for establishing those policies. The next Library Board meeting is January 21st at the library, and anyone is welcome to attend that meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Olson. I do not have any additional general public comment speaker request forms. Did I miss anyone? Any general public comment speaker request forms? Okay, we'll move on. Can we have a motion to open public comment for 4 through 54? Motion by Doyle, second by Roberts. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. I do not have any speaker request forms on items 4 through 54. 4 through 54. Did I miss anyone? Seeing none, do we have a motion to close public comment? Motion by Doyle, second by Clayton. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. We are now on to items 4 through 54. Hit your lights, council, if you'd like to remove any items for separate consideration. We'll go to Chad Lewis.
Item number 35, please.
Item number 35. Anybody else? Anybody else? Amanda?
Thank you. Items number 9, 34, and 36.
9, 34, 36. Anything else? Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve the balance of consent with the exception of 9, 34, 35, and 36? Motion by Doyle, second by Wright. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, motion carries. Item number 9. Jerry, could you read this in the record for us? Item 9.
Item 9 is to confirm the appointment of Heather Thompson and Domingo Rodriguez to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. I yield the floor.
Floor has been yielded. Do we have a motion? Motion to approve. Motion by Doyle and a second by Lewis to approve. Any discussion? Amanda?
Thank you, Mayor. Just so that the public is aware of the vetting process of these two, would you please answer how many applicants actually applied for these two positions?
I believe we had 15 or 16 applicants, Amanda, and I believe that these two were the best applicants.
All right, and Mayor, just was there anything specific that you were looking for as far as qualifications?
I was looking for diversity and knowledge of the community. I think Heather Thompson, she is an enrolled member of Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe and is a Harvard-educated attorney, currently works as an assistant U.S. attorney. And I think she brings strength to the board. And Domingo Rodriguez works for the CVB and has a lot of knowledge of tourism and our recreation system. And I think they'll both make good members of the board.
Thank you for your comments, Mayor.
Any further discussion? Motion is for approval. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We're now on item number 34. Jerry, can you read this into the record for us?
Well, item 34 is to acknowledge the report update on economic development trip. I yield the floor.
Floor has been yielded. Amanda Scott.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to acknowledge the report and retain the floor.
Do we have a second? Second by John Roberts. And
Thank
have the
you.
floor.
And John, first of all, I'd like to say thank you. I know that you attended this trip with the mayor, and even though the mayor it's his full-time job to do this, I want to say thank you for you attending, because as a council member taking this time, I know you had to take your own time that you were not compensated for. So first of all, thank you. I did have a couple other questions besides the article that appeared in the paper, as well as your comments at Public Works. What prompted the trip going down there?
Can you help me?
Yes. Sorry.
Excuse me. I was asked by the mayor because of the fact that I've got over 20 years of manufacturing experience. And I was very happy to do it. I was compensated for the trip. I took my own personal vacation time to go, so I was compensated.
Sorry, I should have clarified, compensated by the city. You were not compensated by the city. So, and that's why I'm saying thank you, because you did take your own personal time. And let me clarify my question. Not what prompted you to go specifically, what prompted the visitation down to the site?
There had been some communication between the mayor and myself from the president of this company. He was interested in expanding his footprint in Rapid City, possibly. So we went down and discussed that with him. And hopefully he will be bringing more jobs to Rapid City.
So the plant that you looked at, was it idle at the time?
They were getting it up and running, that specific plant.
So it had been idle?
They had been doing the friction stir welding part of it was a brand new machine that they were bringing online. They were doing some manufacturing, some tooling and different work there, but not with this new machine that we went and looked at.
Oh, I see. Okay, so when they're talking about expanding here in Rapid City, because they already have a production facility here that employs 18 people, correct?
Correct.
So in order to expand that, are they talking about bringing that specific piece of equipment brand new? So they have two operations going then, one currently where it's located, or because I kind of got the impression they were talking about moving this one up here to Rapid City.
That's something that we had talked to them about not discussing in the public because they're not sure where they want to go exactly, and it's something that that's just not for public knowledge as of now. They may possibly move some of their manufacturing to Rapid City in the future, and they may not. But they do want to expand what they have in Rapid over the next 1 to 3 years.
Okay.
So-
And so the expansion that they're talking about, I think you had mentioned in your newspaper article that you were anticipating increased sales taxes.
Of course.
And what revenue? I mean, is their customer base here in Rapid City so that the customer end user would be charged the sales tax, or are you thinking the sales tax by increase in new employees they're going to hire?
Yeah, both.
So their customer base is going to be here in South Dakota as end user customers?
Some of their customer base will be here in South Dakota, yes. It already is some of their customer base.
Right, and so I'm talking about the expansion, because it to me, and I don't know a lot about what they do, but it seemed to me when you're talking about airport terminal trains that we really didn't have a customer base to buy those types of things. So if those pieces of equipment go someplace else through a dealership, we wouldn't necessarily see the sales tax on that.
And I think when I was discussing that with Aaron, and it may have been my mistake, but that was the line they were running there on their new equipment, not here.
Okay. So we're not really sure what their type of expansion, but what they're proposing is that their customer base for any expansion they do in Rapid City would be to local customers.
Some of it.
Okay. And are they looking to build a new facility, or do they think they're going to be able to expand in?
That's another thing that they really didn't want to discuss at this time. Maybe you could just call Jim. I can give him your number, and you can call and discuss with him.
Okay, that would be fantastic.
Thank you.
And then one other thing, last thing, is I'm looking at the new employee base. So did they have an estimate on how many new employees they were going to be interested in hiring if they do expand 1 to 3 years?
That wasn't something that we really discussed.
Okay, thank you. And yes, I would appreciate his number.
Thank you.
Let me see if I can add some clarity to this. Did you have any other questions? Okay. So my understanding is that they were looking at a tooling and machining expansion within a year or so, and a larger possible expansion within the next 3 years. Jim Hutto and his team are very committed to Rapid City. They would like to have an expansion here in Rapid City. Right now, their large piece of equipment is in the Rock Island Arsenal in Illinois, and they're going to continue to do other business lines that will hopefully come to Rapid City. And so it was one of the reasons, and Jim invited me some time ago to come down and visit. Wasn't able to break away until the end of November to do that. I thought it was important to bring someone along who understood manufacturing more than I did. And so John came with me, and Ben Snow was going to try to come with us. He took a separate trip, Ben Snow from Economic Development. So it was a similar trip to what we took to southern Utah, which was for WL Plastics, and that was a successful trip. And by the way, WL Plastics is a next door neighbor of H.F. Webster. H.F. Webster is who we went to visit just a few weeks ago.
And thank you, Mayor. I was not aware that Mr. Ben Snow had also accompanied you on this trip.
Well, he didn't. Not on this particular
Oh,
trip.
he went on a separate
He
trip.
went separately.
Okay. Thank you.
But you are welcome to contact Jim. His existing facility is in Ward 4, and he'd be happy to tell you all about it, and we can tell you more too.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion? We'll go to Richie.
Thank you, Mayor. Either you or John, do you have information that you can share with us about the salary for the workforce that's being anticipated?
Yes, it meets the standard of the 6 sectors that our economic development group has been working on recruiting. I don't have the exact numbers right now, but we can certainly get that to you later this week.
Appreciate it.
But it would be more of what they have. I mean, they have employees that are earning very good salaries in Rapid City, and there's a range. It's I think it's 35 to 40,000 and up, but there's a range of salaries involved. Definitely not minimum wage positions.
Thank you, Mayor. One more question for either you or John is that the skill level. Do we have the skill here in the area currently that's available, or do we have to bring in outside staff to do these jobs?
That's an excellent question. They have been in discussion with Western Dakota Tech because skilled labor is difficult for them to find. They're having to do a lot of training on their own, and they're willing to continue to do that, but they're hoping to be able to get additional cooperation from local educational institutions to, as they continue to expand, to have the skill set that they need.
Thank you. I was just curious to see if we were going to be bringing in or importing some folks from this facility. Thank you.
Speaking
Yes.
of inventory, to help put the bookend on this discussion, and this has been a good discussion, there's also been, of course, discussion on the free trade zone and the ability for imported products to come in, to have a value added to them, and then to be re-exported without duty. And so I think that this plays into that there may be an ability to tag on to the foreign trade zone or free trade zone that's been discussed.
Just my last question is, since you're referring to the free trade zone, are we ready to go public on what we have accomplished so far on the free trade zone?
The free trade zone, that really would be a good discussion for a legal and finance meeting or a future council meeting. It would probably take about half an hour to give a full presentation of where it's at. It's going to be a long-range process, probably take a couple of years to get that up and running. And there's a lot of, the long pole in the tent for an FTZ or free trade zone is having customs, and so it requires the cooperation of airport, economic development, city, and right now we need to determine that there's the demand for it, and that's what we're doing now. So we're holding some roundtable discussions with business community to gauge interest.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Chad Lewis.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to acknowledge the report and hold the floor for a second.
Okay.
Thanks.
Go ahead.
Sorry, just want to say thank you, both of you, for going out and being proactive for the community. And I think it's important that all of us work together to try to provide some economic development. So thank you.
Any further discussion? Motion is to approve or acknowledge the report. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 35.
Item 35 is request the mayor to authorize staff to work with the applicant on the request by Dream Design International for Discovery Circle LLC for a vacation of non-access easement to allow 2 approaches on Elkville Road to be utilized for ingress and egress to a commercial property located at 1851 Discovery Circle to evaluate other options, including a service road. I'd like to make a motion that we accept the petition for the easements as filed by the petitioner. I'm satisfied, and if I may comment, I have a second.
We have a second. Now you have the floor. Second by Lewis.
Thank you. This came to us at Public Works after a lengthy discussion on many items, and one concern I had was I did not pick up a discussion of a service road or anything like that in this, and I was not totally comfortable with it. I have since met with the petitioner, their engineer, our staff, and I of the position that with the quadrants as they are in that intersection, that although they're not the best, it's livable, and I support it.
Chad Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just clarification. Is the Flying J, the property across the street, is that in Box Elder or Rapid City? Box Elder. Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I will be supporting this motion as well. I think it's important that there's no reason to be giving extra money to Box Elder, no offense, but if we can get some sales tax this direction, it'd be great. The approaches appear to line up exactly with what's across the street, so I see no reason to deny business in this case. Thank you.
Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm also in support of the idea or the concept that is coming forward on this Discovery Circle. A couple of reasons for that is it is an upscale park that's going to be coming in. It's not your traditional travel all or common sense type facility or a convenience store. It's going to be a lot more upscale than that. And then also the other thing that was disturbing to me is the fact that the Department of Transportation for the South Dakota, it just appeared to me that they changed their mind and was putting some different rules for Hanny and his clients, and that's the other part that was troublesome. And I think we sorted that out during and after the Public Works Committee. Thank you, Mayor. I'll yield the floor.
Ron Sasso.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a question for Terry Walterstorff. Are you okay with this moving forward in this manner, or are you, I guess, where's city staff on the recommendations? Are they still where they were?
Your question, are we comfortable with the recommendation that's on the floor? I think the answer
Yes.
would be no. I think the staff's recommendation was that the north approach we felt was reasonable and safe, but to be honest with you, we had concerns over the south approach, and that's based really on some of the standards that the DOT has adopted and utilized. And I do know Dan Staton is here from the DOT, and if you guys have specific questions on their standards or some of their concerns, I'm sure Dan would be more than happy to address those issues with you guys. Like I said, we're approaching it really from an engineering and safety standpoint and the long-term, long-range standpoint. We look at areas like North Lacrosse Street and the intersection there, and we look at the millions of dollars we're going to spend removing approaches to try to fix a problem. And to be honest with you, that's where we will be down the road. At some point in time, we'll be at that same position here.
Thank you. Actually, Dan from DOT, is it? May I, if you would. If you could shed a little light on this issue from your perspective as well, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
I am Dan Staton, Access Management Engineer with Department of Transportation. The numbers that you see within the report and the reference to our having a desire to have approaches no closer than approximately 650 feet to interchange ramp areas comes not just from a whim of picking numbers out of the sky, but from results of issues that have occurred at many locations across the country for many years. And many times in the past, we have not used what in hindsight is the best judgment on locations where the cross route might be our own as opposed to a city or county route. Approaches have been allowed too close. And as referenced by Terry, as the years go by, traffic volumes pick up, crashes get more and more frequent. Sometimes minor fender benders, sometimes far worse. My thought is that this area, when we look to the long distant future, more than likely there may well be a median. We may have still a roadway that's similar to what's there, but it may be a divided roadway much like it is to the south. Because as development occurs and creeps off to the north, there will be bigger and bigger volumes moving that direction. So the need to limit accesses close to the interstate ramps is an important thing. The need to have reasonable distance between adjoining approaches is an important thing. The reference that what exists on opposite side of the road sets the stage. If it's good enough there, it's good enough over here. I don't accept that. As we move to the future, we will try to encourage a decrease in the number of approaches on the opposite side. Try to encourage the relocation of the service road that sits fairly close right now, service road that runs to the east. I would like to see the footprint of that come back to the rear of that large facility there, matching the extension of Mall Drive. Just what's in my mind, but for good future planning, that's something that should be looked at if it's not already done. So all of these things play together, and looking to the future to allow two accesses this close together, one of the two closer than we would prefer to interstate ramps, to us just says problems in the future.
Thank you very much.
We'll go to Bill Clayton. Bill?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Dan, I'm sorry. I wanted to keep you up there, and forgive me for letting you get back in your seat. I wasn't fast enough on the button.
I need exercise anyway.
You're mentioning in the future, and we've had a lot of talk about this, and certainly so at Public Works. The off-ramp coming from the east, heading west, up by the truck stop, is an uncontrolled intersection. So you've got a circular off-ramp that puts you into Elkvale traffic. And I know I was just up there the other day heading to Tractor Supply. And as you look to the left to try to clear traffic, and you've got trucks and cars and whatnot coming down off that hill that are moving, some of them rather quickly because they've got a pretty good run at you, it almost becomes a racetrack. And I would think, regardless of what we anticipate in the future, looking at it right now, it seems like it's too close if we were to allow people coming from the east, heading west, and then turning to the north to immediately take that first approach. You mentioned the possibility of a median. What is the potential for approving the approach, but make it with a stipulation to have an island there now that would prevent people from coming from the east, heading north, and then going across that line of traffic, well, 2 lanes of traffic, and putting themselves in harm's way?
I don't know that we had seriously talked at length about that particular option in the past. May or may not have, but yes, if there were considerations that at some future point there would be a median, and any approval that would be given today might have tied to it the thought that they would, on today's terms, give up a future right of questioning that, you might say, that they would live with it in the future, that maybe between now and whenever it exists, but as volumes build, and as we end up coming to a point where, granted, it's not a piece of state system, piece of city route, but same processes fall in place, as there are considerations for improvements. If anything is to be allowed at this southerly one, then it would be something that at some future point would have to be a right in and right out only, dictated by the presence of an island.
Okay, I'm trying to formulate a question so we can simplify everything that's been said. Right now, the potential danger that's being looked at on the part of city staff, and then certainly you from an engineering standpoint, and forgive me, I'm not an engineer.
Bill, if we could hold on a second. Hanny, do you have a map that we have a map that we can put up on the projector so we can all be on the same page here?
Here we go. Can you bring that one up? There we go.
Okay, so let me see if I can talk through that. So in the upper right-hand corner would be the off-ramp coming from the highway, heading from the east and then turning to the north, north being to the left of the picture as we see it. And then the first access where it's marked, it looks like a 34 in there. That seems to be where the potential danger is that the city staff, am I right, Terry, that's that's what you're thinking, is the potential for traffic conflict would be only vehicles coming that particular way and basically off the off-ramp, crossing 2 lanes of traffic and then trying to make a left into that first approach.
Potentially have a lot of conflicts going on here. You have the frontage road, you have the vehicles coming in out of the Flying J truck stop, and then of course cars positioning for either getting off or on the interstate there. So there's a lot of conflict points in a close proximity here.
And having asked the question about an island, if there was an island, then all traffic wanting to head south out of the truck stop would be frustrated, and I just created a mess. So sorry for my question.
Go to Chad Lewis.
Call the question.
The question's been called. Are there any objections to calling the question? Everyone understands the motion on the floor? We'll proceed to the vote. Okay. The motion, Jerry, if I understand it, is to approve the request for the access points as presented by the applicant.
Correct.
Okay. Question's been called. We'll proceed to a vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. Roll call, please.
Roberts.
Aye.
Wright.
Aye.
Lorente.
Aye.
Sasso. Nordstrom. Scott. Clayton. Doyle. Lewis. Motion carries.
Motion carries. We'll go to item number 36. Jerry?
Thank you. Item 36 is to acknowledge the report and update on the distribution of harvested deer. I yield the floor.
Floor has been yielded, and we'll go to Amanda Scott.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to make a motion to acknowledge the report and retain the floor, if I can get a second.
Second.
We have a motion by Scott, second by Lewis. Go ahead.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to give kudos to the Urban Forestry Committee as well as the Parks and Recs Committee on developing this deer program. And I do appreciate their efforts for next year in relooking at how to distribute the carcasses once they've been killed. That would be, I think, more beneficial to spread it out instead of relying everything on one source. However, tonight, one of my questions is actually for Alderman Clayton. I know that this was your program, and I know when you brought it forward a few months back, you were really concerned about the excessive costs that were associated with this. And I just wanted to give you an opportunity. Were you able to find cost savings? Were you able to reduce the cost of this program with this final plan?
In terms of the changes we've made thus far, no.
Oh, okay.
All right. So the only cost, basically, well, and let me, Lon, do you mind coming up, and then if I get off in a ditch, maybe you can rescue me. Off the top of my head, and forgive me because I wasn't prepared for this, the major cost would be the cost to the city shooters who go out to harvest the deer. And then on top of that, because they use a city vehicle, there are city vehicle costs, and there are some ancillary costs based on the handling of the deer when they come back until they are moved off for distribution or what have you, and a little bit of office cost as well. And I'm trying to picture your annual report. Lon, have I forgotten anything there?
Lon Van Dusen, Rapid City Parks Division Manager. No, I think your summary was quite accurate. I think you'd find that some of the cost savings to the program would be that our staff would not have to stay behind to distribute carcasses to people that show up at our Parks Division facility, helping to load, helping the public to load. So I see not necessarily a cost savings to the Parks Department, but enabling our staff to do other tasks instead of staying back to distribute the carcasses.
So a small reduction anyway in the program. And then one of the things that I was holding back, you know, we've already got the budget and the budget's been approved. And we've got a different methodology. I mean, now we will be very targeted in terms of trying to identify deer in problem areas based on the genesis of the hotline. So where we've got very specific problems in very specific areas, it's not beyond the realm of the imagination if well, this year we will have a deer kill permit for 200 deer. We might only kill 150 or 175 based on the fact that we will be focused on trying to spend our efforts on true problem deer. Last year we killed 200 deer in 21 trips, so in rough numbers, 10 deer per trip. That's really rather quick. And my thoughts were that we were more concentrating on sheer numbers rather than addressing problems. So it goes without saying that the shooters are going to be working harder this year and probably spending more time in the field in an effort to take problem deer, because I don't think the numbers are going to be as high per trip as what we've seen in the past. So we will visit that certainly. I think if it's as easy as what it's been, I did have some concerns in terms of what we were spending on a per deer basis, but the fact, my crystal ball, if it's accurate at all, is that the shooters will be working harder than what they have in the past.
So basically, you're just comfortable with the cost associated to this program now?
In that the budget has been approved, I'm not going to fuss about it. I think we're in a wait and see mode, and I think that's the proper way to go.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Chad Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just once again, I'd like to thank all the people who worked really hard on this program. It's good to see it coming back up here for the 10th time or whatever it is tonight. And just throwing out, I don't harvest carcasses. Just call me crazy. Thank you.
Further discussion, the motion is to acknowledge. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lon. We're now on items 55 through 82. We have a motion to open public comment. Motion by Lewis, second by Clayton. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. We have a speaker request form from Pete Wernicke, who will be speaking on items 70, 71, and 75.
Good evening, Pete Wernicke, Chairman, Compass Committee. I just want on those items to know, for the entire council's benefit, that we, as the entire committee, is here tonight. And if you have any questions on those items, you can address myself, Bill Waugh, and Colleen Schmidt. Thank you.
Thank you, Pete. And we'll go to Lisa Sissenstein on item 73.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Some of you have seen me and heard this before, but many of you that voted against for me on the December 3rd have not heard my comments. So I just like to take this time to repeat. First of all, I placed in to be seated on the Rushmore Plaza Civic Center Board. I went through procedures. I did everything that I was told as a citizen to do. Came to a meeting and expected to hear a passing of my appointment, as I've heard tonight, many passing of appointments. But I addressed you all and left early and got a phone call the next morning from someone who shared with me that they were sorry of what happened. And I didn't know what happened, but I was told and went back and saw the video that I was not appointed, that I was denied the appointment. I want to thank Public Works for bringing on the agenda reconsideration and eventing process, which I did not ask to be placed on there, but I thank them because it allowed me to speak and question what was maybe on my record or what you might have had to deny my appointment. I also at that meeting was told that one of the councilmen had something on me and wanted to check it out more thoroughly before making any comment, which disturbed me because there's nothing that I knew was on my record. I'm very disturbed by what's happened in my life. Even since Public Works, I've had people that have approached me who have supported me to get on this board, has known my past, has known that I have worked with many areas that I feel would benefit by me being on this board. Areas from everything of a new building as far as an expansion with a church when I was sitting as a board member, to placing Convoy of Hope and getting permits and everything to place that in. I have had also people ask me what is on my record that I am not speaking about. This has disturbed me very, very much and has hurt me in the public eye. I need this councilman to make known what is on this record, or to state in public that there is nothing and it was just rumor, which is really sad that rumor comes on. Some of you have written me about not being scrutinized in public. I don't know what scrutinized I would be. I submitted the way I was told to submit. I'm very disturbed on some of the statements that are made. Now, I have learned that maybe some of you have your own agendas. I had one board member, council member, go to a client in a meeting and stated that I had an agenda. I have no agenda. I am not taking anybody's side. I am not put in as any person to represent anyone except the people and find out facts as I'm on that board. I even want you to know I approached some on the board of the Civic Center to ask what would happen if I was appointed. How do they feel after all of this? And I had one that I spoke with said he would welcome me. He's known me quite a few years, and he would welcome me. So that's all I want to say. I hope I get answers. Thank you.
We do not have any further speaker request forms on items 55 through 82. Did I miss anyone? Do we have a motion to close public comment? We have a motion by Clayton and a second by Laurenti. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 55, Amanda.
Thank you. First reading, ordinance number 5887, an ordinance requiring the finance officer to report interdepartmental charges to the Common Council by adding section 2.40.085 to the Rapid City Municipal Code. I make a motion to approve.
Motion by Scott, second by Laurenti. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. 56.
First reading, ordinance number 5873, supplemental appropriation number 5 for 2012. I make a motion to approve.
Motion by Scott, second by Doyle. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. 57.
First reading, ordinance number 5889, an ordinance to provide for standardized administrative regulations for Title 15, Buildings and Construction, by repealing Chapter 15.04, numbering of buildings and replacing it with a new Chapter 15.04, Administration of the Rapid City Municipal Code. I make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion to approve and a second by Nordstrom. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. 58.
First reading, ordinance number 5890, an ordinance incorporating changes to the administration of Title 15 Buildings and Construction by amending certain parts of the International Building Code in Chapter 15.12 of the Rapid City Municipal Code. I make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion to approve and a second by Doyle. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. 59.
First reading, ordinance number 5891, an ordinance incorporating changes to the administration of Title 15 Buildings and Construction by amending certain parts of the International Residential Code in Chapter 15.13 of the Rapid City Municipal Code, and I make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second by Nordstrom. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
First reading, ordinance number 5892, an ordinance incorporating changes to the administration of Title 15 Buildings and Construction by repealing and adopting the International Property Maintenance Code in Chapter 15.14 of the Rapid City Municipal Code, and I make a motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve and a second by Nordstrom. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
First reading, ordinance number 5893, an ordinance incorporating changes to the administration of Title 15 Buildings and Construction by amending certain parts of the International Existing Building Code in Chapter 15.15 of the Rapid City Municipal Code, and I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve and a second by Nordstrom. Any discussion? Seeing none. Oh, Richie Nordstrom.
Mayor, just a brief update is that I've had a few comments or questions from the public on most of these issues that are in front of us now. I think this is the last one we'll be talking about, but as we move forward through the process, I think there's some misinformation that's starting to be disseminated out there to the public, so I want to caution everybody that about specifically the substandard housing, this is not the direction that these are going to wind up, well, eventually they may wind up to be going in that direction, but the licensing is the primary question of concern out there. That is not on the table. So I just wanted to clarify that, that for this part of the process, that is not on the table. Licensing is not on the table. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Richie. Brett, would you take just a moment to briefly identify, and you don't have to go through each one, but 57 through 69, and just briefly describe what these in summary do?
Yeah, what we have in Title 15 are each of the individual building codes, electrical, mechanical, the international code, so on and so forth. Within each of these codes, there is established a Board of Appeals to hear appeals to that code. It's very inefficient for for a petitioner to have to go to each individual board for each individual issue. So as a result, what we've done here is we've created one master building Board of Appeals that will review all applications so that the questions of a petitioner can be answered by a single board at a single meeting. So that's primarily why we're doing revisions to these codes this evening. In addition, there are fees scattered throughout each of these individual codes now in the municipal code section. In order for us to change those fees, we have to actually adopt an amendment to each of the individual municipal codes, which is relatively tedious to do. We're pulling them out of the municipal codes and we're putting them into a fee resolution that council will review at least annually, and then they can make adjustments to those fees all at once. So those are the two primary changes that we're making here. I know it's a lot of codes. There are 13 of them here, but if you could keep moving on through them and we'll get them done.
We'll proceed to a vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Amanda?
First reading, ordinance number 5894, an ordinance incorporating changes to the administration of Title 15 Buildings and Construction by amending certain parts of the electrical code in Chapter 15.16 of the Rapid City Municipal Code, and I make a motion to approve.
Second. We have a motion to approve and a second by Roberts. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. 63.
First reading, ordinance number 5895, an ordinance repealing Chapter 15.18, signed contractor licenses of the Rapid City Municipal Code, and I make a motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve and a second by Doyle. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. 64.
First reading, ordinance number 5896, an ordinance incorporating changes to the administration of Title 15 Buildings and Construction by amending certain parts of the Rapid City Gas Code in Chapter 15.20 of the Rapid City Municipal Code, and I make a motion to approve.
We have a motion and a second by Nordstrom. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Amanda?
First reading, ordinance number 5897, an ordinance incorporating changes to the administration of Title 15 Buildings and Construction by amending Section 15.22.010 of the International Fuel Gas Code as adopted in the Rapid City Municipal Code, and I make a motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve and a second by Lewis. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
First reading, ordinance number 5898, an ordinance incorporating changes to the administration of Title 15 Buildings and Construction by amending certain parts of the Rapid City Plumbing Code in Chapter 15.24 of the Rapid City Municipal Code, and I make a motion to approve.
Second. We have a motion to approve and a second by Nordstrom. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
First reading, ordinance number 5899, an ordinance incorporating changes to the administration of Title 15 Buildings and Construction by amending certain parts of the Rapid City Mechanical Code in Chapter 15.26 of the Rapid City Municipal Code, and I make a motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve item 67 and a second by Doyle. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries.
First reading, ordinance number 5900, an ordinance repealing Chapter 15.36, Fire Districts and Zones of the Rapid City Municipal Code, and I make a motion to approve.
A motion by Scott and a second by Doyle. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. 69.
First reading, ordinance number 5902, an ordinance repealing Chapter 15.44, Miscellaneous Regulations of the Rapid City Municipal Code, and I make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion to approve and a second by Doyle, or by Nordstrom, sorry. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 70.
Request to set a special council meeting for Thursday, December 20th, 2012 at 5:30 p.m. for the purpose of an executive session to discuss the qualifications, competence, performance, character, or fitness of a public officer or employee pursuant to SDCL 1-25-21. And I yield the floor.
Floor has been yielded. We'll go to Jerry Wright.
I make a motion to approve the meeting of Thursday night, and after a second, I'd like to have the floor, please.
Okay, we have a motion by Wright and a second by Lewis. Jerry, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. My comments are somewhat related to an interview that was on KOTA radio last week, but other issues that have been in the press and discussed by this council and committees and citizens and so forth. In particular, I've listened to this interview and the statements from the mayor several times and am appalled at how distorted the truth became with his statements. It's my opinion the mayor has mastered the ability to mislead people by telling two or three stories as one and as if they are totally true and related. As was the case where he was censored by his fellow council members in his conduct related to events at the city's transit division some years ago. Stories twisted to let people believe he was censored for his involvement with the landfill investigation, which simply was not the truth. We owe it to ourselves to know what censure means, and according to Webster's dictionary, censor, an expression of criticism and or disapproval.
Point of order.
I don't think
We
so.
have a point of order. Please state your point of order.
Is this related to the motion for executive session?
Would you please listen to me? Yes, it is. Let us now focus on the actual facts related to the statements in the interview. The first being that the issues of the Compass Committee are not in any way related to or caused by the pending issue to be discussed at the special council meeting as scheduled as item 70, City Council agenda of this night, for Thursday, December 20th, 2012 at 5:30 p.m., for the purpose of an executive session to discuss the qualifications, competence, performance, character, or fitness of a public officer or employee, pursuant to SDCL 125-2-1. I've read the file and understand what has occurred to date, and the subject of this meeting has nothing whatsoever to do with the Compass Committee. Issues related to minutes or any other item or concern of the Compass Committee. The items to be discussed at that meeting solely involve statements about the conduct of an elected official, and actually there are two separate items from two separate sources, and involve two totally different events, and none of which have anything to do with the activities of the Compass Committee. This is being done in accordance with adopted city ordinance and policy, and certainly it involves personnel, and it must be handled discreetly and properly. To take this item directly into the public and media arena because it involves people, executive session is expressed and required by the ordinance. I understand that any action taken by the council in this matter must be in the open, and any decision will be. It is interesting how the mayor and some council members have brought the word censure, some not knowing what the word means. This difference is in a word that sounds similar, much to my amazement. Censure, if selected, would be a possibility, but not the only one. The council could select action, other appropriate actions, etc. But censure, in other words, an expression of criticism and or disapproval by a member of the council against one another, is what some members of the council and the mayor have decided would happen. That I find most interesting. It might end up as a censure, and it might not. One is most foolish to prejudge the outcome of a group and also the fate of a person that was investigated. As for the double-decker bus to Abilene, it was an irrelevant phrase, as was the Compass Committee issue, not being related at all to the investigation of the conduct of a city member, council member. At best, that is a single-deck bus and chartered to search the operations of the city for greater efficiency. What appears to be the ire of the mayor more than anything else is the council committee and staff are an element of the city council and only work for and under the auspices of the city council. They operate much like the Congressional Office of Budget and to a certain degree in a spirit similar to the Inspector General in the military environment. They are to be protected, at least to a degree, so they can audit, investigate funds, expenditures, and related functions of all the city's departments, of which the mayor is the chief executive officer or general manager. For obvious reasons, it is best that the mayor has no direct control over this operation. As for the issue of open meetings, the committee has a set of bylaws they have adopted in accordance with ordinance, and they are working to develop a brand new function. We must give them a chance to succeed. The council, not the mayor, has the responsibility for proper discharge of funds and the conduct of this operation, and they shall. To combine the two issues into a conglomerate of confusion does great disservice to the citizens of Rapid City. Both the protective process of investigating complaints against personnel, employees appointed and elected, and also a brand new effort for efficiency and cost control deserve more respect from the mayor. Further, the mayor to state he does not know where all of this evolved from, or to state that the Compass Committee had done the investigation when in fact the city attorney's office did that, is misleading the public and glazing over his attempts at transparency. In closing, investigations of the conduct of members of the council are one thing, and should and must follow the process as set by ordinance, policy, law, and common sense. When the sources are from different individuals and involve separate events, and none of them are Compass Committee activities, is misleading and deceitful. Let the process work for the betterment of our community. The same basic message for Compass. Do not confuse it with the investigation into the conduct of a council member. Again, allow Compass to evolve under the City Council, the city's representatives, and produce meaningful results. Ultimately, if the Compass program does not improve better efficiency, we can't do away with it. At this time, we're spending $260,000 to take a hard look at a $135 million budget. Probably a good investment. Give it a chance. When I ran for office of City Council in 2011, my sole purpose was to help the city be a more positive place by working for long-range planning, revitalization of our infrastructure, and economic development. I did not sign on to further my political beliefs or to enhance my political career. I'm very disappointed in the elected officials of our city that have spent an inordinate amount of time discussing and promoting the evolution of the ideology instead of good government. Last week, about 1/3 of our meeting time in Public Works and Legal and Finance was spent discussing issues related to the politics of the city and not the business of the city. That is disgraceful, and I cannot tolerate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. We'll go to Ron Sasso. Ron.
Thank you, Mayor. I feel a need to point out that there was a lot of veering there that wasn't related as much to the issue at hand. I will attempt to speak to the issue at hand. The executive session and the code of conduct, I know there are a lot of things that are swirling around out there regarding that. There are a few aldermen who were involved in creating the procedures for handling the code of conduct complaints. And the code of conduct itself goes back to, I believe, 2006. When we first sat down to look at the code of conduct, we did look and consider, okay, is this a good outline or is it not? We felt on the one hand that it was, if used sparingly and carefully. The reality is right now, this code of conduct, these procedures are what we have in place. And as a result, I've looked at where we are at with this, and I do believe that we will, from the procedural standpoint, we have two options, either the executive session option or a public hearing, which would be at the choice of the person involved. I believe realistically we're looking at an executive session on this. I also believe, having looked at the evidence, that it should be a very brief executive session based on the Constitution and the First Amendment. Thank you.
Any further discussion on the motion? The motion is to set a special council meeting for Thursday the 20th. Richie?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to support the motion to go into executive session on this. However, I think Ron has some legitimate concerns, and I don't see a problem with, once the executive session is complete, that we can take this out into the public after that executive session is over with. The Code of Conduct instructs us to go into executive session as authored by the people that are on this city council right now. And so I'm in support of that. That is the part that needs to be addressed. And then there is absolutely nothing wrong with us coming out of executive session and then reporting to the public what was determined or some sort of hybrid that we can come out of executive session and report to the public what we discovered in there. And it's an 11-page report, so let's go for it.
On the motion, I do have some comments. We'll first go to Ron Sasso.
I will say, as I mentioned also in I believe it was Public Works, I'm not sure, Legal and Finance, I was involved in both and they were long, but no, I believe when this is over, we will be revisiting this policy definitely as a council. I am certain of that. So thank you.
Thank you. I'll make a few comments here. First of all, I'm sure that it comes as a big surprise to everyone that I'm in favor of openness to the greatest degree possible. I don't think anyone envisioned a situation regarding the code of conduct where the code of conduct would be applied to a matter occurring outside of city government and not involving city employees as witnesses, defendants, or plaintiffs. And that's really the key issue here. And regarding the issues with Compass, Jerry, with all due respect, clearly the issue does involve Compass, at least to some extent. We may never know what the true extent of it is because the meetings haven't been open, and hopefully that can be corrected as well. To put the bookend on this discussion and in the spirit of Christmas, I'll say that I think this matter here before us is one of the reasons why the council has been so divided over the last several months, because this has been percolating for some time. I really hope that we can move forward as quickly as possible to put the issue behind us. What really should be making the front page is all the streamlining that we've been doing. What really should make the front page is the fact that just recently we eliminated 37 different boards, commissions, and committees. What really should be making the front page is the fact that we're continuing to expand industrial and economic development. And so hopefully we can move forward as quickly as possible. I've stated my position regarding the closed session. I believe that it is inappropriate because it does not involve any city employees, and it involves matters outside of city government, outside of city council meetings, outside of subcommittee meetings, any other types of committee meetings. And I think I mean, there's only been one previous enforcement of the code of conduct. I'm somewhat familiar with that situation, and it is unprecedented to enforce the code of conduct on situations that happen outside of city government. And the council is going to need to decide from a matter of policy how far you want to go, and that's something that's going to have to be addressed. Thank you very much. Question's been called. Any objections to calling the question? No objections. All in favor of the executive session on December 20, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? No. Roll call, please.
Wright.
Yes.
Lorente. No. Sasso. Nordstrom. Yes. Scott. Yes. Clayton. Yes.
He abstains.
Abstain. Okay.
And we also had an abstention from Charity Dwell. Okay.
Lewis.
Yes.
Roberts. No. 5-4, 2 against, 2 abstain.
Okay. Item number 71. Amanda?
Request an official opinion from the Attorney General on the legality of the Compass Committee holding working sessions which are not open to the public. And
We have a motion by Wright to approve. Do we have a
No,
second?
Laurenti.
Oh, we have a motion by Laurenti and a second by Roberts to approve. Jerry, you still had your light on. Was that? Okay. All right. John Roberts.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say that I am highly in favor of doing this. I think that this is a good idea and a very good step going forward. I think that if and when we get this ruling, hopefully we can put all the issues in Compass we've had to rest and we can move forward. So I am highly in favor of this.
Jerry Wright.
I'm not in favor of it simply because I don't want to take up the valuable time of the Attorney General of the state of South Dakota when we can settle our own issues right here in South Rapid City. Bottom line is this. The Compass Committee is trying to do something that's historic and new. I know members of that committee, and I trust them with my life. And I don't think they're going to do anything misleading, illegal, or wrong. And I think they've been caught up in a political whirlwind that has misled this whole thing. And I think give them a chance, for God's sakes. We can look at their bylaws or minutes, and they can determine if they are going to have a meeting through semantics and through language. I know what they're trying to do is protect the auditing process, to protect those that are involved or providing information. They're not trying to keep secrets from us. They're not a clandestine, secret, covert operation trying to steal the city from the citizens. If anything, they're trying to help it. And I think that we should trust them and let them work it out. And they're ours, the council's, and if it's a problem later, we can solve it. But I am absolutely convinced that we can work out these issues without going to the Attorney General and consuming his exceedingly valuable time with such trivial nonsense. I think we are big people. We should handle it. I will not vote for sending it to the Attorney General.
Thank you, Jerry. We'll go to Ron Sasso. Ron?
Thank you, Mayor. I will be supporting sending this to the Attorney General with one of the thoughts, though, it is still an opinion, and it is a legal opinion, and until we have something from the Open Meeting Commission, or actually, as City Attorney Joe Landine pointed out, actually a judge would really be the ultimate answer. But that said, I I still would rather see, regardless, Compass meetings be open, and my logic on this is quite simple, that if the fear is that even talking about something that could be audited still results in change because people suddenly are nervous, that can't be a bad thing. If an article gets written, so be it. We deal with that. We deal with that all the time. So, but I will be supporting this because at least we might be able to put this one to bed. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. We'll go to Chad Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I appreciate the support from the council. I brought this suggestion forward at Legal and Finance, and I think it's the best way to handle the situation. The Attorney General's opinion is a pretty qualified opinion, I'd say, and I'm pretty sure that if we act based upon that opinion, we're acting in good faith, and I don't think that opens us up to much legal problems. Of course, I'm not an attorney, but I think either way, it just brings some closure to this situation and allows people to go on with their lives and hopefully get Compass going in the best way it can, and I really appreciate everybody's support and willingness to look for this opinion, and look forward to hearing their opinion soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Chad. We'll go to Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. Have we decided what is exactly the question that is going to the Attorney General? I'm not sure who to direct that question to, but Mayor, I look for some direction.
Ask Joel. I think the question's
okay. Joel?
basic.
Well, I was pretty clear on it until the discussion today at the Compass meeting, where it seemed to get much broader. Based on the motion and what's actually on your agenda tonight, it's my understanding that simply the question going to the Attorney General would be whether or not the work sessions or closed sessions would be legal or illegal under the state's open meeting laws for the Compass Committee. I was not planning on, based on what the motion on the council agenda was, to send other items unless I get different direction from the city council. And at this point, I would recommend that what be sent up there be as narrow as possible, both for clarity of the opinion, and I would not suggest sending up things and asking for legal opinions on questions that you don't currently have any disagreement on or really need a legal answer to at this point.
Thank you, Joel. If I can ask the author of the original motion is Chad, have you got an intent of what the question should be?
I think it's just, as it's stated, request an official opinion from the Attorney General on the legality of Compass Committee holding working sessions which are not open to the public. And can you want me to explain why?
Yeah, I would, clarification on the working session part of it, please.
Well, I guess working sessions are just not formal meetings. I guess the idea being behind that you don't, the FBI doesn't tell you they're investigating you. And there's got to be ability for people to have a free exchange of ideas. I don't know. I'm not, like I said, I'm not a lawyer. That's why I'm asking for the Attorney General's opinion to clarify this issue. This seems to be the issue we keep talking about on the council up here over and over again. So my feeling is that if we can get a semi-official opinion from an official opinion from the Attorney General's office, who's probably a little more learned in the law than I am, hopefully that'll clear it up for people and we can proceed.
Thank you. Chad, one more question for you is that, do we have a good understanding what a working session is?
Well, I don't know. I guess that's. Do you know what a working? Are you asking me if I know what a working session is, or if we as a
if I
council
may redirect to City Council?
Thank you, Alderman Nordstrom. I don't think we need to get caught up in titles at this point. Whatever it's called, I think the question the council has been wrestling with is the ability of the Compass Committee, when you have a quorum of the members present, to go into closed session. And that means where the public is not present and cannot watch them conduct their business. And that would be the way I would frame it. And I wouldn't get too caught up into whatever the meeting is called.
Thank you, Joel. That cleared up a lot for me. Appreciate it. Thank you.
I'd like to just make one point of clarification. There is no business. We've decided a long time ago that no business would be conducted in a work session. So all business is conducted in the open.
Any further discussion on the motion? If I could make a brief comment. there's no business being discussed in these work sessions, then this issue is really settled at this time. I mean, I think this really comes down to a matter of whether the meeting should be open or not. I had understood recently that Joel had talked to Kellen and that the meetings were going to be open and that this whole controversy was just going to go away. And then apparently there was some folks who decided that they wanted to have the meetings closed or remain closed, and that's why we're having this debate. So if we're going, if there isn't deliberations happening, I think that needs to be cleared up. Otherwise, I'm not sure what the purpose would be of asking the Attorney General for an opinion. I'm all in favor, by the way, of getting an opinion from the Attorney General if that helps settle the issue. But at this point, you know, we could just open the committee meetings up, and the issue would be settled, especially if there's no deliberation or discussion of substance happening in the meetings. Go back to Richie.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm a little confused now. From your comments here is that what you're alleging here is that the Compass Committee has held some secret meetings. That's what I'm hearing. If I'm wrong, please correct me. But have you got any information that can you shed some light on this? Who's in those secret meetings, or what is taking place, or just where is the evidence that we're having these secret meetings? I'm lost there.
So am I, Richie. I know there was one last week, but I don't know what I don't know because the meetings aren't open, and that's one of the reasons that we have such an issue. Maybe John Roberts would want to talk about this. He's been, expressing concerns on these closed meetings all along, and he's a member of the committee. And I appreciate his leadership and his efforts to grant clarity on this situation.
John, since you've brought up your name has been brought up on this, do you care to shed some light on the closed meetings or private meetings? Or
we're having meetings where we're not keeping minutes. We're discussing things that, in my opinion, should be out in the public. I know the last meeting we had, in my opinion, there was absolutely nothing we talked about that we shouldn't have been able to keep minutes for. But as a committee, I'm only one voice, Richie. So, one voice gets overruled by the four other voices. So, me wanting to have minutes kept hasn't really gone a long ways. So, what have we discussed? I don't know if I can really talk about that. I'm supposed to have, I'm in a quandary here. I'm in a committee that we're not supposed to be discussing what's going on in there. We're not keeping minutes, even though I don't think there's anything we're discussing we couldn't talk about.
That's what I'm confused about. Is, John, you're saying one thing is that there is not an issue about this information going public, but then in the second hand, in the second sentence, you're saying you can't talk about it.
The committee does not want it talked about, Richie. The committee does not want it talked about. I want it talked about, but I'm getting voted down about that, Richie.
I think the city attorney explained it pretty well. I'm very satisfied with his recommendation. Thank you.
Chad Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. May I please, Mr. Bill Wass, you're out there in the audience, and since you're a former ward mate, well, in the past. Thank you, Mr. Waugh. Can you perhaps address the question that Mr. Nordstrom was asking? As far as, Rich, can you restate your question for me as far as talking about before?
I'm trying to get a clarification on the work sessions.
Yeah, okay. What's being discussed, basically? I mean, is there your opinion about the work sessions, more or less? No, evidently not. Is it on now? Yeah, there you go. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I'm Bill Waugh, and I am a member of the Compass Committee. And I really don't know where to begin. When we first formed, our main goal was to bring forward bylaws and start the discussion about hiring staff auditors, which we have done. The discussion about how our work sessions would be handled came up numerous times, and that's all they are. They're work sessions. There's no big secret things going on there. We talk about how we're going to do the audits, how our staff auditor is going to do the audits. He's been bringing us up to speed on the different rules and regulations that his profession has to follow in doing governmental audits. But there's nothing secret about them. We meet maybe once a month if we need to prior to our public meeting. We talk about the agenda. But I don't think I've missed maybe one, and there's been no secretive meetings. There's been no secretive agenda. We have not talked about this executive session thing that came up and the mayor has alluded to in his public broadcast. We have not talked about that. So I don't know what we're talking about when working sessions are working sessions. That's where us citizens, the three of us that are donating their time to serve this community, get together with the auditors, with the two council members that are on our committee, and we decide our main goal has been the audit plan for next year. What departments, what the processes we're going to go through, and how it's got blown out of proportion is beyond me. I'm flabbergasted. I watched the Public Works meeting from last week. I couldn't believe what I heard at the Public Works Committee meeting. I listened to the mayor on KOTA. Where he came up with that, I have no idea. I'm a private citizen. I've sat up there. I sat up there for 6 years. I've never heard of anything like this. It just blows my mind that three of us, citizens, donate our time to help the city through a government audit process, and we're getting chewed up in the news for nothing that we've done. Now, granted, I have no problem with the Attorney General giving his opinion on the Compass Committee working sessions, or whatever you want to call them. We sit down as a committee and we work through an audit process. We are not making secretive little decisions in the dark hallways of some building. It's ridiculous. I can see why it's hard for government to get public citizens to donate their time to work for the betterment of a community. If I knew at the onset that I would be put through what this committee's been put through, I would have never done it. I worked for 6 years sitting right where you folks are sitting, and I appreciate everything you do, because as a council member, I know you don't get thanked enough for what you get paid and for the time you put into it. So, working sessions are working sessions. Get an opinion from the Attorney General and let us do our job. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wall, and that's exactly what I was going with the Attorney General. Opinion is I'm more than willing to abide by whatever the opinion they come up with. They say we have to be open, that's great. If not, well, let's just let everybody do their job. So thank you.
Thank you, Chad. Steve Laurenti.
Call the question.
Any objections to calling the question? The question has been called. Everyone understands the motion on the floor. It's to approve item 71 as is. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries with 1 no from Jerry Wright. Thank you, everyone. Item 72. Jerry.
Thank you, Mayor. Item 72 is the Presidential Plaza update from Hani Shafi, Dream Design International, Incorporated. And this was received and heard at the Public Works Committee. And the question is, does the council wish to hear the briefing at this time? If not, I would make a motion that the report be accepted as presented at Public Works.
We have a motion to acknowledge. Do we have a second? Okay, and a second by Nordstrom. Any discussion on the motion to acknowledge or any questions for the applicant? All in favor of acknowledging, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. 73. Jerry.
Item 73 is the appointment of Lisa Ray Sisselstein to the Rushmore Plaza Civic Center Board and Committee through the vetting process, and I move to table.
We have a motion to table. Do we have a second? Second. We have a motion and a second by Amanda Scott. There's no discussion on a tabling motion. All in favor of tabling, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Roll call, please.
Parente. Sasso. Nordstrom. Scott. Clayton. Doyle. Lewis. Roberts. No?
Excuse me, I misspoke. Robert said no. Correct.
I said no. Jerry.
Okay. Wright.
Aye.
5-4.
Okay, item is tabled. 74.
Excuse me.
No, no discussion on.
Question of a point of order, though. If there is a motion, a tabling motion, potentially to silence the minority, that may not be appropriate, and I'm not sure if this would qualify as that.
It's a valid tabling motion.
Thank you.
And my understanding is that Pat can pass in the simple majority. Jerry, item 74.
Item 74 is a request to add John B. Roberts to the council leadership investigation and possible censure of a council member, and I make a motion to table.
Do we have a second? Second. We have a motion by Wright and a second by Nordstrom to table. No discussion on a tabling motion. All in favor of tabling, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Motion carries with one no from Steve Laurenti. 75.
Place in the darkness, John.
Jerry? All right.
I'm sorry, do you want me to?
Can you go ahead and read 75 for us, please?
Item 75 is the proposed 2013-2014 Compass Audit Plan, and I make a motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve the audit plan. Do we have a second? A second by Lewis. Go to Charity Doyle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We did have our chief auditor here to talk in more detail about these proposed audit topics, which most of us are very excited about. However, he's had an allergic reaction to something this evening, munching on the Christmas holiday treats in the caucus room, and it didn't work out too well for him. So I don't know if someone else on the committee wants to speak to that, or if we just want to percolate these items until the next meeting. Because I'd really like the council to hear. I would. I mean, he helped us understand them, and
I believe I made a motion to approve. You would like an amendment to postpone?
Substitute, perhaps?
Substitute to move this to the next.
Jerry, if you want to change your motion to continue the next council meeting, if that's okay with the seconder, we'll do that and forego the substitute.
That's fine with me.
That's okay with the seconder, whoever seconded it? Chad? Sure. Okay. So we have a motion to continue this to the next city council meeting, which is January 2nd?
Next regular council
January
meeting.
7. All in favor of continuation, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Pauline, thank you for your patience.
Sure.
Item 76.
76 is the bids for the 2012 fire hydrant installation annual project. We received 7 bids on this project. Recommendation is to award to RCS Construction, Inc. in the amount of $61,160.
We have a motion by Wright to approve and a second by Doyle, and then we're going to have one abstention, as I understand it, from Chad Lewis. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. 77.
77 is for the Shooting Star Well Abandonment Project. We received 4 bids. Recommendation is to award to Hills Materials Company in the amount of $14,485.
Do we have a motion? Motion by Nordstrom, second by Lewis to approve item 77. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Next item is for the 6th and 7th Street Overlay Project. 3 bids were received. Recommendation is to award to Hills Material Company in the amount of $111,917.30.
Motion by Lewis, second by Nordstrom. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Opposed, motion carries.
Number 79 is for the high nitrate content hay bales. We received bids from various companies. Recommendation is to award lots 1, 3, 4, and 5 to Jones Ranch Partnership for a total of $7,490, and lots 2 and 6 to Tony O'Neill for a total of $4,116.
By Doyle, second by Nordstrom. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Items 80 through 82 are reissuances of alcohol licenses. We have a motion to approve all three. Motion by Doyle, second by Lewis. All in favor say aye. Opposed, motion carries. We're now on public hearing items 83 through 88. We have a motion to open public hearing. Motion by Doyle, second by Lewis. All in favor say aye. Opposed, motion carries. I do not have any speaker request forms on 83 through 88. Did I miss anyone?
Man, we're about out of here.
We have a motion to close public comment. Motion by Doyle, second by Lewis. All in favor say aye. Opposed, motion carries. Would anybody like to remove any items 83 through 88? Okay. Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve all those items? Motion by Lewis, second by Doyle. All in favor say aye. Opposed, motion carries. Bill list.
We have 5 additions to the bill list. First one is for Hills Materials in the amount of $4,770.09. Next is to Highmark Inc. for $2,644.30. First to Stanley Johnson Concrete, $576.12. Second one to Stanley Johnson Concrete is $3,621.52. And the final one is to Rapid Construction Company for $5,385.93, bringing the total bill list to $7,657,011.33.
Do we have a motion? Motion by Doyle, second by Nordstrom. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Opposed, motion carries. We have a motion by Doyle and a second by Wright to adjourn. All in favor say aye. Opposed, motion carries. We're adjourned. Merry Christmas, everyone.